Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right into a seriously fascinating and deeply revered narrative. We're looking at the Islamic account of the birth of Hazrat Isa. You probably know him in English as Jesus, and his mother, Maryam. We're going to be pulling directly from Islamic sources, like the Quran and classical biographies, to really unpack not just the miraculous events of this story, but the profound theological weight it carries within the faith. Now, to actually wrap our heads around this narrative, we kind of have to start with one massive foundational concept. When he decrees a thing, he merely says, be, and it is. That idea, it's the absolute heartbeat of the story we're unraveling today. It totally sets the stage for a chain of events driven completely by limitless divine authority. In the Islamic tradition, Isa's story is, at its core, a showcase of God's absolute power to create whatever he wants, totally bypassing normal human limits. But, okay, to really grasp the sheer magnitude of this, we first need to talk about Maryam, or Mary. The sources paint a picture of a remarkably pious woman from a deeply devout family. I mean, even before she was born, her mother dedicated her entirely to the service of God. Because of that, Maryam grew up totally secluded in the temple. Her whole world was just worship, prayer, and the remembrance of God. And that's a crucial detail, right? It shows us that long before any miracles happened, she was already a woman of just unmatched dedication. Because of her pure chastity and lifelong devotion, she was literally honored above all other women of her time. And that quiet, steady life of seclusion, well, it sets the stage for a completely life-altering shift. She's about to be thrust into a rapidly unfolding sequence of immense trials. We're talking a sudden divine visitation, a terrifying retreat out east, and then finally, a highly public and incredibly tense return to her people. It's a massive, frankly overwhelming whirlwind. So the catalyst for all of this is the Annunciation. While Maryam is deep in her temple seclusion, the texts tell us an angel, a direct messenger from God, just suddenly appears to her, and he appears in the form of a perfect man. Now, he didn't just drop by to say hello, he brought some startling, totally unexpected news. He gave her the glad tidings that she was going to be blessed with a pure son, a prophet, and this would happen completely without any human touch. Understandably shocked by this physical impossibility, Maryam asks the most natural, immediate question: how can I have a son? I mean, how could this ever happen to someone as so pure, who's lived her whole life in seclusion and has literally never been touched by a man? It's exactly what any one of us would ask if faced with something that just shatters the basic rules of biology. And the angel's response? It brings us right back to that core theme we started with. He powerfully emphasizes that this conception is 100% miraculous. It's a direct sign and a mercy from God that just totally bypasses human action. God creates what he wills, and his command of be is all it takes to bring absolutely anything into existence. But, receiving a miracle doesn't just magically erase human fear. Maryam is now facing a genuinely terrifying reality. Fearing the heavy social implications, the potential shame, and just the sheer distress of a pregnancy outside of marriage in her society, she makes a brave choice. She retreats. She heads eastward, far away from her people, looking for a quiet, private place to endure some really profound physical and emotional isolation as she prepares for what's coming. Yet right in the middle of this grueling, solitary labor out in the wilderness, she's completely enveloped in divine provision. The sources say she was actually directed to shake a palm tree for ripe dates, and a spring just appeared for her to drink from. And actually, fun fact, modern science confirms that dates are incredibly beneficial for easing labor and giving you energy. It adds this really fascinating layer of practicality to the divine care she received. Even in her darkest hour, she absolutely wasn't abandoned. So, following the birth, the narrative tension just absolutely peaks. Maryam makes the incredibly brave and probably terrifying decision to walk back into her society carrying the newborn infant Isa. And as you'd probably guess, she instantly faces just intense shock. We're talking severe scrutiny and really harsh questions from her community. The contrast in this moment is so dramatic. You have the community surrounding her, hurling these accusations of impropriety at a woman known her entire life for her purity. But then, God provides this unimaginable defense. Instead of Maryam having to explain herself, the newborn infant miraculously speaks right from the cradle. He literally speaks up to defend his mother's honor against the shocked crowd. And what's wild is in this astonishing defense, the infant Isa doesn't just say, "Hey, my mother is innocent." His speech actually lays out his entire destiny. He emphatically declares his divine role, identifying himself right then and there as a servant and prophet of God. He says he's sent with revelation, made blessed wherever he might be, and that he'll serve as a guide to righteousness who confirms the truth of previous scriptures. I mean, right there, literally in the cradle, his whole life's mission is defined. Okay, stepping back from the nativity story for a second, it's vital we look at the broader theological picture here. We need to understand exactly how classical Islamic sources define Isa's adult nature and his ultimate earthly mission. When we look at his nature, Islam maintains a very strict distinction. Isa is viewed as a highly revered, miraculously born human prophet, but, and this is key, the texts explicitly note that he is not divine himself. His mission, which was guided by the Injil, or Gospel, was basically to call people to worship the one God, all while performing some pretty incredible feats. And speaking of those feats, the sources highlight some absolutely stunning miracles. He healed the blind and lepers, brought the dead back to life, and, this is fascinating, even created a real bird out of clay. But the text makes a massive, very important distinction here. These miracles were performed solely by God's permission. They were undeniable signs to his people, specifically meant to urge them toward moral reform and compassion. Ultimately, though, despite the miraculous birth and all those incredible signs, his entire mission, much like the long line of messengers who came before him, was singular. It all boils down to one clear objective: inviting humanity to the pure, unadulterated worship of the one God. So the crucial takeaway here is how Islam actually interprets the virgin birth itself. You see, it isn't just viewed as a physical miracle or some biological anomaly. It's fundamentally a theological statement. It is the ultimate, undeniable proof of God's limitless power, proving that God's authority completely overrides the rules of nature, biology, and society. And furthermore, this whole narrative permanently solidifies the immense status of Maryam. Her unwavering faith through the terrifying unknown, that solitary struggle in the wilderness, and her ultimate vindication. It all brilliantly illustrates why her legacy is so firmly secured. In the Islamic tradition, she is forever honored as one of the most pure, devoted, and revered women in the entirety of creation. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought. When we look closely at how uniquely Maryam and Isa are revered within this strict monotheistic framework, how might exploring this deeply respected perspective actually expand our understanding of shared global histories and faiths? It's definitely a fascinating lens for viewing narratives that cross cultural boundaries. Keep exploring that, and thanks for listening.